Hey, welcome back to the channel, LED fans. I'm Cesar Torres. I'm the founder and designer of LED Queens Fitness Apparel. As you know, this is about the fourth time you've seen my face split screen this way because we're doing a brand new series called Queer as Fuck Heroes. QAF Heroes, if you want to shorten it. And I've got here with me an LED fan acquaintance that I know through the LED Queens Instagram, Jason Sloan. Welcome, Jason. Can you hear me?
I can. Froze there for a sec.
Yeah, you froze. I think you
Hello?
had a phone call.
No? I don't think so.
Oh, weird. It just froze. No worries. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just reintroduce you just so that
Luckily, that was right at the beginning. Yeah, yeah.
no worries. We'll just reintroduce you. And the thing you should know is obviously this is live. So if we get Q&A, any comments during the stream, we answer them here. But right now
Okay.
we haven't done this giant push for the channel, so it's not like I'm expecting
Yeah.
thousands of people. Yeah. So welcome back, LED fans. As you all know, an LED fan is somebody who's in the experience of LED Queens. Those tend to be our customers, but it could also just be somebody who watches this channel. I've got here with me today Jason Sloan. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, welcome to you as well.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, it's good to feel welcome in this COVID-19 weird world. Jason, I know you in two significant ways. One is you really enjoy the tights that I make, and you wear them very well on your Instagram. But we're going to start with something that really just caught my attention. You did a series, or you continue to make a series of
Mm,
posts that are basically essays about turning 50 and doing what you do and being who you are. So why don't we start there? I mean, I think we're starting
mm,
literally with your age, but can you tell us a little bit
mm.
about who you are, what you do, where you live, and what led you to start writing that series of posts with your selfies?
Sure. So I'll start, yeah, a little bit about me. Yeah, as we were just kind of saying, I grew up in the United States and moved to the UK, and it's been actually just about 15 years ago today. In 3 days, it'll be 15 years. And
Oh,
the reason why I moved is because I met my husband here while I was working, and fell in love, and was super fortunate to be able to move here, and been here ever since. Um, yeah, I mean, live in London. I love London. It's an amazing place to live. People ask me what do I do, and I said basically I have fun because I
nice.
love my work. Yeah, I love my work, uh, friends, and everything. So you mentioned, yeah, the series of photographs that I did and posted to Instagram. And I had this idea because I was turning 50. It's just a pretty big deal, right? And
Yeah.
I thought what might be kind of interesting is to think about taking 50 photographs or working with a photographer, and kind of taking 50 photographs of me at 50. And fortunately, I was able to meet and become really good friends with a photographer just after I turned 50, because the idea or concept kind of slipped away a little bit. Anyway, last summer we did some work together, and just to take some photographs, and it reignited this idea of the 50 photographs at 50, and was able to use several of the ones that he took. And like you kind of described, I mean, I didn't want to just post photos. I wanted to kind of tell my story in a way because, again, 50 is a milestone birthday, and I thought there's surely 50 things I can talk about myself, in photographs. So it was a year-long process that just ended because I just turned 51.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
And what kind of feedback did you get on those images as you were posting them?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it was a combination of probably people that know me a little bit, and so in some sense, it wasn't necessarily a surprise to them, some positive feedback. But I think one of the things I noticed is that people responded because, as human beings, I think we respond to stories and storytelling, and
Mm-hmm.
essentially that's what I was doing. And it wasn't just about, a selfie or me in the gym or something like that. It was like what actually is behind it, and other parts of my life. Like I'm quite a spiritual person, So I think kind of bringing that into what I talk about and what do I share about myself, I think was important to me, and I think it helped create a conversation on some level.
Well, you also helped bring up that conversation about what it means for any of us who are gay or queer to age, to move into new
Mm,
decades.
yeah.
Can you talk about what's your identity? Do you have preferred pronouns, et cetera? And how did that fit into, for you, how you think of yourself as, a person who's 50 or 51?
Yeah. I think, well, I mean, the term I like to use for myself is queer. That's when I saw everything that you're doing, kind of queer anything.
Mm-hmm.
I respond to that because I think I grew up in an era where the word queer was, quite derogatory,
Yep.
but now it's, a term that oftentimes reclaim, and I certainly have, because like queer, I think is like the coolest word because it's so inclusive. And one of the reasons why I like it is because people look at me and perceive me as male. I don't identify as male. I identify as non-binary, and so my pronouns are they them. Um, I'm not really too concerned about it. People call me what they want. And the reason why I like to tell this story is because I came out as gay when I was in my 20s, and I still refer to myself as gay, and that was hard enough. So like then
Oh, yeah.
later in life, when I started understanding, gender and what does it mean, and because of my work in inclusion and everything that I did in that area, I was like, when I heard the term non-binary, I was like, this is me. Like I've always felt that way, and finally there was a word to describe it. So I, I tell people my pronouns are they them, but if they don't use them, I don't get too worked up about it because I'm like, I've fought enough in my life. I'm good with letting that go.
So this is something I really didn't know about you from
Mm,
just reading your Instagram,
mm,
and I love talking about this because you and I are I guess we're both Generation X just by
yeah,
sort of where we're
yeah,
at
yeah,
with
yeah.
age. I'm about to turn 46, and for me, queer was something that I really enjoyed. I liked it because academia at the time at which I was an undergrad,
Mm,
was really revitalizing that word, and I used to
mm,
use it quite a bit when I was in university. And
yeah.
then when I got into the workplace, and this is probably not such a great thing, but when I got into the workplace in the mid 90s, all the way, through the aughts, I had a reaction to identity, yeah, and identity politics that was maybe similar to some
Mm,
other Gen X people, which was sort of like, we're out and proud or whatever, but it wasn't
yeah.
like as politicized. And
Hmm.
over time, of course, I also just grew as a person. And
Mm,
as of today, I still use gay because there's a lot of people
hmm.
who need to find me with that word. But
Yeah,
queer is the one that fits me the best because
yeah.
the
Oh, I
constructs
got
of,
no, I
of
got chills when you said that because it was like it's so great, isn't it, to meet people that like have that same sense,
yes.
because it's like I don't talk about this that often, honestly, but when you find somebody who has that same um attachment, or resonance with words like that, I was like, I like that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's something that even for me, it's hard to explain
Yeah,
truly like what my full sexuality and identity is. But queer
yeah,
is the best because it
yeah,
covers a lot of ground, and it
yeah,
also allows me to sit wherever I sit in gender, in whatever way I do. Because I'm not. Definitely not transgender or anything like that, but the fluidity that can exist within queer it really just fits who I'm turning out to be. Because
mm,
I don't talk about this on the LED Queens account. I should, but Carl Jung,
mm,
he's really one of my
yeah,
heroes, and the way that he asked us to explore the psyche includes going to all the different parts of the continuum of
mm,
gender. So I'm glad to actually kind of uncover this because I really didn't
yeah,
know
yeah.
you thought that way. That's brilliant. What age did you come out, Jason?
Um, well, it's interesting because I've always known I was gay ever since. I mean, my earliest memories, have always been,
Yeah.
feeling how I feel. And my first boyfriend was when I was 21, I would say, but it didn't really fully come out until I was 26 because I grew up in well, I was living with my mom and my stepdad, and they're quite fundamentalist Christian in the southern United States.
Mm,
During a time, it's not like it is today, where it's a little bit more open, but it was tough, So I think it wasn't until I went to graduate school where I was like halfway across the country,
yep.
and yeah, felt comfortable coming out then.
Wow. Uh, Now, you're at some point you transitioned to the UK. Was that always part of the plan, or did you end up in the UK in some other way that you really didn't foresee? I know you met your husband there, but how did that transition happen? Uh oh,
I'll have to just there for a sec.
it froze a little bit. Did you catch my whole
Oh, there, I think
question?
you come back now. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I didn't. No, no. I said, yeah, it was when I was in graduate school that I came out finally.
Oh, yeah. The question was the your transition. Living in the UK. How did
Yeah.
that come about?
Um, Really organically, really, because I was, at the time working, and I was working on a project, and was spending a little bit of time in the UK while I was here. It was the first time I was here over a weekend, and so decided I wanted to go out and maybe party a little bit,
Yeah, yeah.
experience London a little bit, and just by fate, I met my husband because we actually saw each other in a coffee shop and didn't meet. And then hours later, I went out by myself, to this kind of super club because it was Pride weekend, just by chance, And I walked by this guy again, and I turned around and I was like, "You're the guy from the coffee shop," and he said, "Yeah, I am." And,
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
he's British, and yeah, so we've been together literally ever since. We said hi and talked all night, and the rest is history.
Uh, one of the biggest intersections that we have here on the show is the
Mm,
intersection between people's, queer lives, but then
mm,
also fitness. Fitness
mm,
arrives for all of us at different points. Some people were like athletic from day one, and then some
yeah.
people find themselves later on. For me, it was like, how old was I? Like 21. That's when
Mm,
I first was like, oh, I love running. I want to do a marathon.
yeah.
That's when it started. But with a lot of children, they're doing school sports by the age of 10, 11. I didn't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So how about you? What role has fitness played in your life or sports? And how is it that today you look so great every time you post these photos?
Well, I think that my history, I would say, with activity like sport really was from the moment I was born. My dad was an athlete. My mom was quite active as well, and so sport was just always a part of our lives growing up. And and as I mentioned, kind of growing up queer, at least in mine, not really understanding it. I think there was a point of separation at some point where I was like,
Mm,
that, the jock is not me. But I was still athletic and I was still quite good at sport. And but veered away from that because, I thought, yeah, bullying and those kinds of things that I experienced, it just wasn't, for me. But I was always active, and my parents were quite active, and so, um, yeah, by the time I reached university, I was running, biking, swimming all of the time, and then even after that, I mean, that was a big part of my life. And in fact, when I was really deciding what is that I wanted to do for graduate school, because I was running, biking, swimming every day, I was swimming like 6 days a week, and thin as a pin, thin, as a rail, but and that's why I chose exercise physiology out of the kind of the different things, I wanted to do. It just seemed like the most logical because I really wanted to have fun in my career, and yeah, so and that was an amazing journey in itself because before I went to graduate school, that's when I started lifting weights seriously because I was so thin. I was like 158 pounds.
oh wow.
Same, I'm 5'10". Um, so so quite lean and muscular, I would say, but thin.
Yeah, yeah,
And
very very lean. Yeah.
yeah, but my inspiration, even when I was younger, were all the muscle magazines and like the bodybuilders, and so I was like, that is what I'd really like to be, And so I think, and so part of it was just becoming my fantasy in a way. I know that sounds odd to say, but it's like instead of going after it, it's like that's kind of what's my inspiration, and yeah,
In the world of like leadership and self, yeah, like some self help. It's and sports, like sports coaching. That's visualization. You literally
Yeah,
visualize what you wanted to be, and
yeah, yeah,
you went for it. What's interesting about that sort of psychology is it's for you is like who you want it to be, because you were starting from a point at which you were kind of, you self-described it like very skinny, and then
yeah,
there's people like me, where I grew up kind of as a fat kid. So looking
yeah.
at those images, I was like, that's what I cannot be, right? Because I think that there's
Yeah,
this other kind. I think skinny people do
yeah.
that too, but
Oh yeah,
one of the
completely.
things that I've noticed, there's even this pattern in these interviews, is I haven't met a single queer person who didn't have some sort of idea of how they wanted to become. And
Mm,
then my job is to have these interviews go out to the world so that those barriers
yeah,
can be removed just by hearing other people's narratives about it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, what kind of, so is that the line of work that you're in now? Are you in like in the fitness industry, or what do you do now?
No, because that led to more graduate school, and and I studied hardcore science, cell and molecular
Oh,
biology.
yeah,
And I work at a pharmaceutical company, and I have done for about almost, well, 19 years about. So
great.
after my 5 years of graduate school, and but I don't do science. So I worked in R&D for a long time, but basically on the business side of research because my background is also business. But now I work in organizational development and as a business coach. So basically I work with individuals, teams, and organizations to perform at their best. So it's kind of like, in a way, kind of if you think about gym training and all of that, apply it to kind of, I would say self-development, but also team development, organizational development.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite related, I would say. It's just more psychological.
Well, that's a really cool line of work. I have a lot of friends here who do that. Just
Yeah,
maybe it's because of those circles I float in. I myself
yeah,
am an entrepreneur now because I spent 25 years as a career journalist, but I made a
yeah,
switch about 3 or 4 years ago into this, which included publishing my more of my books because I had already published them.
mhm,
But LED Queen sprang from that, and there's times when I even ask myself, I'm like, where did this come from? But I think that entrepreneurial spirit was there. But you can't be an
absolutely.
entrepreneur without being a good leader. And
Yeah,
so a lot of the themes you touch on are, really interesting. Let's go down that rabbit hole though. So you're talking
okay.
about how groups function together or whatever. And
Mm.
before COVID, did you have a support network of people who go to the gym with you, or who are focused on like supporting your goals, or was it more like a small group, like your husband and like
Mm.
who was around your fitness kind of life? Who was that team before the virus pandemic arrived?
That was like a super question because I never even thought about that. I mean, except to say that no one. I
Fair
feel like
enough.
kind of an island in that way. I mean, I do have some friends, but sort of my personal philosophy is, I mean, this isn't something that's new for me. I've been seriously lifting for 25 years, and it's always been a part of, regardless of what I did, whether it was like graduate school, work, even when I moved, everything was, that was always the thing that was part of my life, I would say. So even, my husband and I used to gym together when we first met, and he's less motivated, I would say, than I am
Sure.
now. I do have occasionally have friends that I lift with, but it's more like because I'm quite social. I'm an extrovert. I love going out. I'm out all the time.
Really?
Um, yeah,
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
yeah. And so I think the gym for me is alone time. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in a way. So it's like, and it's always been that way. And I think it's sort of because I mentioned I'm quite a spiritual person, and I think that's also. I mean, people voice. I've had people in my life that says like, the gym is my church. It's not like that for me, but it's a place where I can kind of close off, and just be,
Solace. Yeah.
yeah, with myself and kind of check in with my body, check in with my spirit, whatever, and it's like if and it's great, I'm always happy to live with other people. It's one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, it's also something I like to do on my own.
You mentioned that spiritual component for you. as long as you're comfortable sharing. But how would you describe that your spirituality, and what is that fit with it? I think that's really interesting, and most fitness channels never talk about this. So how does that
Yeah.
interlock for you?
I mean, it's not in the conventional sense, because I
Sure.
talked about kind of growing up in a religious family. The religion is separate. It's more like rules and that sort of thing. I think it's more about um, when I think, and there's a direct connection. I mean, the graduate school that I went to initially for exercise physiology was Springfield College in Massachusetts. Their philosophy is mind, body, spirit, and I think that's something that really spoke to me. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go there. But it's like what's happening in mentally or spiritually shows up in your body. So if I'm at the gym, and this is what I guess how I check in spiritually is like if I'm feeling kind of aches or pains or different things in my body, then I just kind of examine that a bit. I was like, wonder why that is. Like what else is going on in my life? And
Hmm.
because I can feel it in my shoulders, a lot lately. I had a pretty stressful weekend. Um, my husband had an asthma attack, and I was like,
Oh,
a
sorry.
lot of this. Yeah. So yeah, it's all good. He's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Totally.
Good.
Yep. He's downstairs. All good.
Good.
But I could definitely feel it in my shoulders, and I think that happens, when I go to the gym, and yeah. So that's why I would describe it.
No, that makes sense. And that also resonates with what I hear from a lot of other folks, where it's something that is very internal, and it has not that much to do with dogma or the structures of organized
That's
religion.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
Now let's get into some fun stuff. You really you wear LED Queens tights really well, but you also wear all the other brands super well. Uh, and you said you're an extrovert. I could kind of pick up on that even before I met you, right? But
Yeah.
can you talk about your fashion choices, what they do for you? There's some people who are probably either younger or
Mhm.
just not confident enough where they go, I want to
Mhm.
do that one day. How did you get to the point to do that? Because I'm sure you didn't wake up one day like, at the age of 12 and just say, well, here we go. I'm going to look like a muscle man in a superhero costume. Like, how did you get
Yeah.
there, and what function does it do for you day by day?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it's interesting because I think the way I describe it, because I used to go to the gym down the road from me, and I live in East London, and parts of it can be a little bit rough, I would say.
Hmm.
And this gym in particular is very rough and ready. Everything is a bit dirty, and the guys that show up there, I was like, I'm sure half of them are criminals, and it sounds really judgmental. But the owner did get put in prison.
And it's
The
East
previous
London.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so so everyone wears black and gray and blue, and I'm like, I show up in your tights, and I'm like a unicorn, and then which I love. But what's really cool about it is because the expectation is like somehow that the people are gonna treat me differently, but actually everyone's super nice, and
Yeah.
they don't really think about it too much, and neither do I, because I think that's part of it too, is just showing up with a certain amount of confidence and this is how I am all the time, so regardless of where I show up, that's how I'm gonna be, and I think you're right, it wasn't always like that, but I think as you get older maybe a little bit, or you just get to the place where you're like, I feel really good about who I am, so I'm gonna wear what I like to wear. So what it does for me, I think, is just not so much does anything for me. It just means that I'm just able to express myself, the way
Expression.
I
Yeah.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
And since we've been all locked down, I set up my gym in my garage. It's pretty apparent from my Instagram because that's the only thing I do now is just work out in my garage. But now I wear whatever I want, literally.
Yeah. You're like working out in your underwear now.
I do. Yeah, I did today.
That's sweet. That's what's happened to all of us. I mean, our
Yeah.
choices inside the house have completely dictated whole new experiences.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean that stuff is really relevant because there's the queerness aspect that we talked about, which from the more political end, like it is about expressing who we are and validating. It's just validating
Yeah.
who we are. So that's super cool. And then there's the fashion aspect, or just style, personal style.
Yeah.
I've been dying to ask you about this and just have that discussion because it's something I did recently. I go through cycles, but I shaved my head last year for the first time and I
Hmm.
loved it. And the reason I have it growing back now is because I have that other project. I do cosplay. as Pablo
Yeah.
Green. And for
Yeah.
that if I'm doing a character or another cosplay that has hair, it's just a lot easier than to get a wig. I don't want to buy wigs. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the point is, I loved shaving my head, and actually, like every time I do one of these things where I'm growing it out, I'm like just ready to shave it again because I love it.
Yeah.
For you, how did you end up shaving your head? And
Mm,
you just do it so well.
mm.
How does that? What part does it play in your life too?
Well, I mean, I've always had this kind of love-hate thing with my hair anyway, because it's always been quite thin, I would say. And
Mm,
so when it started basically falling out, it just went really short, and then one day I decided, why not just shave it off, and see what it's like. And I was like, I fucking loved it.
yeah.
Just like it was just amazing, because of the the freedom, and because I have the worst I had the worst bedhead known to man. I'd wake up and I was like, what is wrong? And so now I literally wake up and it's like, you know, I can go out of the house. I don't worry about it. It's just quite freeing. Also, I think I like to stand out a little bit. Maybe that's why I like to wear bright colors, tights and everything like you make. But I think when you shave your head as well, it's not a statement and really, but I think it just if I hang on to a little bit of hair, I think it's just going halfway. I'm like, why not just go all the way?
All the way.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
such a strong style choice. Now it's been, let's say in the '80s, like Michael Jordan
hmm,
and a few other people, they really started bringing it into the culture. But
yeah,
it's such a strong style choice now. It's the
yeah,
equivalent like for women, if they get like their hair blown out or a new cut.
mm,
For men, it's a choice we can make that really. I
yeah,
actually think, especially if you're wearing like clothes that are on the extreme, extremely formal or
hmm,
extremely casual or like extremely sporty, it kind of
yeah,
like elevates it all. But it does bring a lot of eyes to one's face. I noticed people look at you in a different way when your head is shaved, which I enjoyed. I mean, I
yeah,
admittedly,
yeah.
I've enjoyed it too. So
What's interesting
yeah,
though is like I think that's true for the United States, but here it's much more common.
yeah,
So it's like in fact when I first moved here and I used to go out, because we used to go out and dancing or whatever, and I get dressed up. I'm a child of the 80s. You have to get your hair fixed and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And these boys would show up and I'm like, did you just pick that up off the floor and just like put it on your body? And then everyone had shaved heads or like really short hair. And so I felt like I didn't fit in. And so finally, when I shaved mine off, I was like, yeah, I fit in.
No, well, it's great, and it's when I was getting ready to do it, which was back in December of last year.
Hmm, hmm.
I remember looking through different people I knew on Instagram or LED Queens
Yeah,
customers and being like, oh, if he can do
yeah,
it, I can do it. But I love it. And in fact,
yeah.
I'm just about to finish my latest project for some photographs. So as soon as that's
Hmm,
done and I'm 100% sure I don't have to do a reshoot, it's coming
yeah,
off because I love it. I
yeah.
really love it. Um, so let's talk a little bit about your training. We have just enough time to cover this like essential piece at the end. With COVID-19, we're trying to keep this on a more positive level. For
Yep.
you, obviously, it forced you to work out in your is that your garage?
Yes.
Yeah, which is really cool. You're very lucky you have that like really cool space. Uh, how has it changed your training itself? Like some specifically,
Yeah.
what have you had to adapt in order to train indoors like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, initially, because I had about a month when I didn't have equipment at all, I had like basically a band and a jump rope
Oh,
and, and something else. And, but what I did is because I need to be active, so I probably took a week or two off just because I don't ever do that. And I thought, why not see what that feels like? But then I got back to it and I did basically high intensity interval training, and just it was fun. Actually, I loved it because basically I went out to my garage and I wrote down 10 different things, 10 different basically activities I would do and just cycle through each one and like do it 3 or 4 or 5 times. Um, so because I didn't want to lose what I built
yeah.
at the time. Then I was waiting for this equipment, and I actually used two gyms in London. One is where I was using co-working space, but it's a bit more limited. really plush, but it's it's quite limited. So what I learned there is like with a very small set of pieces of equipment, I could do everything that I wanted. And so basically, I did. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. So basically, I ordered all the stuff that I want, which is essentially a bench, and I have a Smith machine, with a bar,
Oh yeah.
an Olympic bar, and some Olympic barbells, like little things that I can put weights on, and just all the weights that I need. And so it's like really quite minimal, but it's everything that I need. And so now, since I have that, I've been working out hard, in a way that I haven't done in a long time. And so, which has been great, because I think, yeah, I worry less about, my commute and things like that because I have a lot more time, and it's been amazing.
Well, this is the one big open-ended question, and it's an open-ended
Mm,
question for everybody. But I think once
mm,
restrictions lift or improve,
yeah,
or let's say
yeah,
that we do have a vaccine and life can
yeah,
resume a new era, not resume, but move into a new era.
mm,
I do wonder there might be more than a few people who will say, well, I kind of love working out at home
yeah,
because there's no commute, there's no fuss, no
mhm,
no whatever. So I wonder maybe I'll check in with you over time and see how you feel
yeah,
about that. Because I here like
yeah,
this little wooden bench, that's my bench, and I have
yeah,
adjustable dumbbells and bands. And I train right now 5 to 6 days a week, and I love it.
mm,
I love. I mean, the first
yeah,
month though was horrible. I really was
mm,
depressed. I didn't.
mm,
I didn't like working out in my living room because I'm in my living room. But
yeah, yeah,
now I've really kind of embraced it, and I look forward to it just like when I used to look forward to taking the train to go to the gym. So,
yeah,
how about your nutrition? How does that look? Like, I think the question is less more about COVID, but more about
hmm
because you're 50. How do you manage your
hmm
nutrition that allows you to keep that good shape and
mm.
body fat percentage?
Yeah, and I think I probably was a lot more kind of strict, I would say, and regimented when I was younger, because I was trying to build mass. But as I might have mentioned when we are quickly saying hello, it's like when I turned 40, I was like, wow, okay. Now I know what people are talking about, because I used to have a hard time gaining weight, but
Hmm.
then now it got to where I was like not so difficult, to gain weight. Now I'm 50, and it does get progressively a little bit more difficult. But the thing is that I've always eaten healthy, always,
Hmm.
and I think, in fact, my mom just sent me cupcakes because she does that on my birthday every year, and it's like the one time a year I have cake,
Oh, that's
and
sweet. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, if we go out to dinner and stuff, of course I'm gonna have dessert now occasionally, but at home it's just not common, and I don't. I was Ice cream is another thing too. I was like, I love it, but I don't ever eat it,
Hmm.
and so it just those are just a couple of examples, of things that I tend to do. So, um, and I think also because I'm quite in touch, I would say, with my body and how I react, and not really regimented, but I know exactly what I can and can't eat. And right now, I'm feeling a little bit, a little bit chubby. So I did an hour of cardio today, and, yeah, I'll cut back a little bit on certain things. So,
Yeah, I think everyone's feeling like weirdly chubby. Like, and some of it,
mm,
like I actually weighed myself on the scale. I'm still the same weight. I'm actually 2 pounds
yeah,
under from when before COVID started.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I look at photos and it must be a distortion because I'm like, I don't feel right. But
yeah,
whatever. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh, in this house, like I don't really have things like that, desserts or
yeah, yeah,
potato chips or anything like that because I know myself. It's more of like I will eat them if they're here. Um,
yeah,
yeah. So you have kind of a really what I'm hearing from you is that you have kind of a really well structured life that you enjoy. And
yeah.
before we lead into the last question, I really want to make sure we cover this. What or who brings you joy?
Hmm, hmm,
Because again, people I'm trying to move people's eyes away a little bit from just your photos, which are stunning. You look amazing,
Yeah,
but to actually get to know somebody and go, oh,
yeah,
this is a very highly motivated person. That's the really good stuff we're trying to show. Is like how where does that? What's the source of your joy so that you have
yeah.
this life that you like?
Yeah, and I think it's such a great question, but I think kind of an easy one to answer in a way because I think I told the story of going to graduate school partly because I was like I wanted to do something fun with my life, and it's been a philosophy that I hold today. The work that I do I love. If I stop having fun and enjoying it, then I change it, because I feel like even though I've been at the place where I am now, 19 years, I feel like I've had about four different careers inside
Yeah.
of that company, doing super interesting things. And even today, I love what I do. And I'm excited about going to work. So that's one thing, that will always be present. Of course, my husband brings me joy. I mean, he makes me laugh every day. I want to punch him in the face sometimes, of course, but that's normal.
That's a marriage.
Completely
Yeah,
normal.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yep.
But that's kind of a hallmark of our relationship. It's
Yeah.
like we laugh every day, and if something's not right, if we don't. Um, and I mentioned I'm quite of an extrovert, and so I think normally I would have suffered a bit, because we are at home. But in fact, because I am so out there all the time, actually having a break is really nice, and kind of staying at home. And our home is really quite a nice place to live as well. I mean, we live in an old stable yard in London. It's really interesting and unique and stuff. So I think that our nice garden, and to be honest, I probably saved the best for last because I mean the gym has been a constant in my life and it does bring me joy. And so if my husband ever says, "Why are you working out so hard?" Maybe slow down. I was like, "No, never," because it does. I mean, it's like I need that in my life. It just makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That's brilliant.
Mm,
That was a nice succession, a string of different answers that add up. That's lovely. We also always ask to wrap up. What are
yeah.
two songs on your playlist right now? No
Mm,
judgment, because in fact it's a queer audience. So no matter what you say,
mhm.
people will be like, yeah. But what are your two power songs that right now, when you're training in that home setup in your garage, they're the songs that just you're like, I'm gonna lift this motherfucking bar.
And I wish there was a couple that I go to, but I have to say it's like because I kind of yeah. I mean, I'd go with mood. I've been listening to disco the last couple of days, because that gets me going. But a lot of times it's just like dance tunes. But I have to say, if I were to pick two, there's always two that I probably go back to, and one is Beyonce's "Ring the Alarm."
Yeah.
And so there's just something about that one, that kind of picks me up. And then the other one is by Coldplay, Sky Full of Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story behind that one too, because it's quite an uplifting song. But it was used in Apple's video that they made around Pride, that they like about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm quite involved in my workplace around our LGBT um, employee resource group. And at the time, the vision or like the vision was always to be at Pride, in London, Pride in London. And luckily we've been there for 5 years running. But I saw that video in the year that we were kind of starting. And if you've never seen it before, basically they come around this corner, all these employees, and they just keep coming and coming and coming while the song is kind of going on. And it's like it was really inspiring to me, So I think it's that memory coupled with kind of the song itself, but it's also my philosophy, It's like kind of where uh, a sky full of stars, that's in each one of us, I guess. And I'm quite positive as a person, So it's a good reminder, I'm in the gym for a reason, and I'm always quite motivated by things like that. And I never compare myself really to other people in any real meaningful way. It's more around, did I do my best today? Because and this is a true story actually. I come out of the gym and my husband asked me, how was the gym today? Even coming back from the garage, and he'll ask me, I was like, I worked really hard every day.
Good.
Because it's true,
Yeah.
because I was like, every time I go to the gym, I was like, I work hard. There's occasional moments, I would say, where I was like, I'm just not feeling it today. But I work hard. Every time I go to the gym, I work hard.
Well, it's so obvious. And that resonates for me. It's a huge part of your life. It really is.
Mm, mm,
And I can very much relate to it, as can probably a lot of people who will watch this and listen to it on
mm.
the podcast version. So let me just recapitulate for everybody here so that people know how to find you, how to find me.
Mhm.
Jason, we've got your Instagram up here, so we've got that there. And if people have questions or they just want to follow you, they can do that. For us, a reminder, LED Queens has this YouTube channel as the vehicle for these interviews, but we also will be cutting these interviews up into a shorter format and putting these on the Cesar Torres podcast. If you all are watching this and you make it to the end of it, I should put it at the beginning. We'll do that next time. You can use the code new LED fan and you can get 10% off of your first order. And this is really a community grassroots kind of endeavor. When I was designing how to do this more than a year ago, this was before COVID, I had this long list. I was like, I want to get these fitness people and nutrition and
Mhm.
bodybuilders. And that's still the plan. But then when COVID arrived, I thought, no, uh, I'm actually doing a disservice to the real people that matter if I don't feature them first. So I'm actually going
Mhm.
with like the community of real people who are around me, because the fitness stories are just as compelling and powerful. These are people who embrace fitness,
Yeah.
bodybuilding, CrossFit, or who
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
over cancer. We've had all different kinds of people like coming through the door, and so we're going to keep doing these. But please subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment, and we didn't get a specific question today because we're still growing these. I think we're going to start
Mhm.
seeing more people during the live chats, but we did get a bunch of little pluses on the chat. So, Jason,
Amazing.
I want to thank you. And if there's anything you want people to walk away with, knowing that now they met you, you're free to mention that, or we can just wrap up. But it's so lovely to talk to you.
Oh, likewise. No, thanks for having me. It's been amazing and so much fun to talk to you. And no messages. Hopefully, it came through that I'm like huge advocate for the gym, but also just doing what you love, basically. So, you don't have to do it like me. You don't have to do it like you. Just find your own path and just have a good time.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and we're going to wrap up. Thanks, everybody. See y'all at the next one.